ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिः यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैर्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति नः इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्तिः 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 यो अन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाच इमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं लसतु श्रीमदानन्दतीर्थेन्दुर्नो हृदम्बरे यद्वचश्चन्द्रिका स्वान्तसन्तापं विनिकृन्तति पदवाक्यप्रमाणज्ञान् प्रणम्य शिरसा गुरून् व्याकरिष्ये यथा भूतं विष्णुतत्त्वविनिर्णयम्. So yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to friends who've joined for the 37th session of Mundaka Upanishad, also known as Atharvana Upanishad. Let's not forget all the rishis, starting from Atharva, Angira, Satyavaha, Angirasa, and Shuanaka, and all the acharyas and gurus who have imparted the knowledge of Mundaka Upanishad or the Atharvana Upanishad to us. The Devata for this is Aksharanamaka Paramatma. As we know in Mundaka Upanishad, the word Akshara comes again and again in the Upanishad because the Devata is the Aksharanamaka Paramatma, who is Vishnu himself, who is celebrated in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna calls himself as Akshara. The Chandas is Anishtub and others. Okay, so we are in the Dvitiya Mundake, Dvitiya Kandaha. Let's quickly run through the verses that we have done so far. Avihi Sannihitam Guhacharam Nama Mahatpadam Atra Etat Samarpitam येचत् प्राणत् निमिषत् च यद् एतज्जानत सदसद्वरेण्यं परं विज्ञानाद् यद् वरिष्ठं प्रजानानाम् यदर्चिमत् यदनुभ्यो अनुः च यस्मिन् लोका निहिताः लोकिनश्च तदेतदक्षरं ब्रह्म स प्राणः तदु वाङ् मनः तदेतत् सत्यं तदमृतं तद्वेद्तव्यं सौम्य विद्धि धनुर्गृहीत्वा औपनिषदं महास्त्रं शरं हि उपासा शन्ददीत आयम्य तद्भावगतेन चेतसा लक्ष्यं तदेव अक्षरं सौम्य विद्धि प्रणवो धनुः शरो हि आत्मा ब्रह्मत लक्ष्यमुच्यते अप्रमत्तेन वेद्तव्यं शरवत् तन्मयो भवेत् यस्मिन् द्यौ पृथिवी च अन्तरिक्षम् ओतं मनः सह प्राणैश्च सर्वैः तम एव एकं जानत आत्मानं अन्यावाचो विमुञ्चत अमृतस्य एष सेतुः अरा इव रतनाभौ संहता यत्र नाड्यः स एषो अन्तश्चरते बहुधा जायमानः ओमित्येवं ध्यायत आत्मानं स्वस्तिवः पाराय तमसः परस्तात् यः सर्वज्ञः सर्वविद् यस्य एषा महिमा भुवि Divye Brahmapure hi esha vyomni atma pratishtitaha. So we did the first half of the seventh verse. Yeah. Yes sarvajnaha sarvavid yasya esha mahima bhuvi. So what did we do last week? So we sort of looked at a very important concept of Vedic philosophy that also touches upon yoga and so on. Araiva Ratanabo, this Antaryamin who is inside me in the middle portion of my body called the Hrid. How is he controlling and looking after this whole body? And his way of controlling the body is very similar to how a chariot is controlled by the wheel. So you have the wheel. The wheel have the various spokes. All these spokes are attached to the middle portion of this wheel, which is called the Ara. That middle portion of the wheel is what of the wheel called Ara is what that holds all the spokes together. And when the spokes are held together stably, then the wheel is stable. If the wheel is stable, then the chariot moves forward. As described in the Katha Upanishad that we have seen, Atmanam Ratinam Viddhi, Shariram Ratamevatu, Buddhim tu Saratim Viddhi, Manaha Pragraham Yevacha, Indriyani, Hayanahur, Vishayanteshu Gocharan. So this rider of this body called the chariot is riding towards either Shreyas or prayers. And who is this who is actually controlling this rider itself? Okay, so that is the next level of philosophy that is discussed in Mundaka Upanishad. Katha Upanishad, of course, says yes, there is this jiva who is the rider of this body. And then Mundaka Upanishad says, inside the jiva is the Antaryamin, who is actually the Ara, who actually controls even the jiva and his body. Okay, so that is an important concept here. We have to link Katha Upanishad with Mundaka Upanishad to understand what is the Vedic philosophy that our Vedas teach us. It is talking about this Antaryamin who is inside and he does what? Saha Eshaha. He is the controller. Control how? Antahascharate. How does he control? Antahascharate. Doing a lot of things inside this body, this pindanda, and also inside the jiva. So he is doing so many things simultaneously to all the jivas all over the cosmos. That is why he is Sarvajna. That is why he is omnipotent and omniscient. These are just not words, but he is actually doing this in all the jivas, in all the universes. How does he do it? Bahuda Jayamanaha. So he is inside the middle, Hrid, and he is controlling the various activities, or say, for example, the conscious states of the jivas, which we saw last week. 3 states that we do in samsara, right? We are constantly doing these 3 states of consciousness: Vishwa, Tejasa, and Prajna. In these 3 states, there are 3 forms of the Supreme that is described in the Mandukya Upanishad. Okay? Vaishwanaraha, Prajnaha. So the Vaishwanara forms, Vimshat Lakshanato Anunaha, Tapasvi, Bahuvedavid. So that is the rishis who see these mantras and their qualities. How do they see this Paramatma as? In the Vishwa form, they see him as somebody with 19 forms, 19 heads. And in the dream form, 19 forms. And in the Prajna, he is one controlling the Shushupti Sthana. So in samsara, this Paramatma is controlling the 3 states of the jivas by moving in 3 chakras: Agna Chakra, Vishuddha Chakra, and Anahata Chakra, corresponding to the pineal gland, thyroid gland, and the thymus gland, which we are all familiar with. So he's not an idle entity, is what the Upanishads are constantly telling us. Guys, he is not an idle entity. He's Sarvakarta. He is doing everything. He is not an inert entity. Some folks think that Brahman is an inert entity, but that is not the language of Angirasa here. Watch this carefully. Sa eshaha antascharate bahuda jayamanaha. How does he do? In his 5 Vyuha forms, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Sankarshana, Vasudeva, Narayana, in these 5 forms, he controls so many entities. 5 Panchabhutas, 5 Panchatanmatras, 5 Jnana Indriyas, 5 Karma Indriyas, 5 components of the Manas in his 5 forms. And his 24 forms that we do every morning and evening, he controls the 24 tattvas of the Brahmanda. He pervades them and he controls and he does so many activities. That is why this line becomes interesting. Sa eshaha antascharate bahuda jayamanaha. Who is that guy who is doing all this? He is that Omkara or Om Tattva, which we discussed so many times in our satsang. And our Angirasa informs Shuanaka, just meditate upon this. Om iti evam dhyayata atmanam. Just meditate on this Om. That is all you need to do. In fact, all our acharyas, all our Swamijis or various matas, all that they do is recitation of Om. Not like Alexa or a tape recorder, but with a full anusandhana as to what Om actually means. Yeah, so we all know that verse from Mundaka Upanishad, right? The last verse of the Mandukya Upanishad. What does it say? That person who knows the real meaning of Omkara is the Muni. Omkaro vidito yena sa munir na itaro janaha, said the Mandukya Upanishad. So we need to be serious about this contemplation of Om. What does Om mean? We have to do manana, shravana, and dhyana of this Om. And that is what Angirasa is saying. Om iti evam dhyayata. Just meditate on that alone. He is the Atmanam. He is the controller like this Ara. And if you know that, what happens? Swastiva paraya tamasas parasta. So we did that verse last week. And we said paraya tamasaha parastad opens up in 2 different ways. Swastiva paraya tamasaha parastad. Swastivaha paraya tamasaha parastad. In the first interpretation, we can look at tamas as jada prakriti, tamasaha parastat as chetana prakriti or Lakshmi, tamasaha parastat paraya, that which is higher than jada prakriti and chetana prakriti. That is what? That is our aprakrita vigraha called the Paramatma, who is celebrated in chapter 15 as Purushottama. Yeah. So by knowing these last, the 16th, 17th, and 18th verses of chapter 15, what will happen to us if we know this? If we know this fully and we bring it into practical applications of life, then we understood the Vedic philosophy properly. When we understood the basic philosophy that Paramatma is the supreme independent controller of everything, and whatever that we are doing, we are so dependent on him for everything. Once we have that, once it is impregnated in our consciousness, that knowledge eventually will bestow goodness onto us. What is that goodness? What is that supreme goodness? We become eligible for moksha or liberation. What can be more, what can be goodness itself than achieving aparoksha jnana and eventually salvation? So that is what this verse is saying. If you know this gradations of entities, which is what Shvetashvatara Upanishad said, isn't it? And again, we've discussed it so many times. Shvetashvara Upanishad said there are only three entities, guys: Nya, Agnya, and Deva. Deva is the supreme guy who controls all these guys. So if we understood that, then our life will be a lot easier. But we think we are the independent controllers of everything. And that is the reason why we incur karmic imprints. That is the reason why we suffer. That is the reason why we go into endless cycles of samsara and so on. So our rishis pick up at the fundamental root problem of all this as to what is it that we need to get to the bottom of. And so from that angle, this one becomes very good. Harish ji?
Yeah, I forget exactly where I heard this, but or read this. But are there any restrictions on who can chant Om? Because again, what I remember is that it's more something that sannyasis and folks that have given up grihasthashram, right? They are the ones that should be doing that. I don't know if there's any validity to that, so just wanted to check with the group.
Yeah, sure, Harish ji. Very, very important point. So the Omkara Chintana is we need to be an adhikari or a mumukshu, in a serious contemplation of achieving salvation. Okay, so that we need to decide first. If we are serious, adhikari mumukshus want to head towards salvation, then Omkara recitation is for us. Then, of course, there are all the other folks who just want to come up with their own fancy whimsy ideas to say, certain genders can't do Omkara, certain age groups can't do Omkara, you can't do Omkara, that can't do Omkara. But our gurus have said, they shun that kind of view, Harish. They don't agree to that view of Omkara recitation should be restricted to a few. I completely agree with that view. It cannot be for a restricted few. Omkara sound, Angirasa has very clearly said, Om iti eva dhyayata atmanam to all of us. He didn't say only sannyasis should do this. So I completely reject that. And not because I'm some big fellow or something. No, because it's my guru who has taught us that Omkara is for everyone. But be mindful of one thing. That one thing is, if you start doing Omkara Chintana seriously and want to achieve salvation, you may lose interest in the material samsara in which you are entangled at this point of time. So that is the only caveat attached to that, that eventually if you become so serious in that Omkara, you may lose completely interest in samsara in the sense that, having children, looking after their families, having a career and having stock investments and properties and all that stuff, you may have a complete vairagya. So that is what we need to be watchful of. And if we want to vairagya and we are really serious in progression, Omkara Chintana is for all of us. So that's how I've understood, Harish. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. So definitely do it, but check with your spouse.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah, okay, fine. So that's very good, Harish. Thank you very much. So let's move on. So the second aspect, Sastivaha Paraya Tamasaha Parastat. So Harish, that's why we need to do that. Paraya Tamasaha Parastat, for those fellows who want to cross darkness. Yeah. Tamasaha Parastat, those who want to cross this ignorance, this darkness. This samsara is due to ignorance. This is full of darkness, it's full of ignorance. We think it is full of knowledge, but actually it is not, it's full of ignorance. If you want to cross this darkness called samsara, so tamasaha parastat, then what we do? You use this omkara dhyana to paraya, to cross and go where? Swasti, swastivaha. What is that swasti? You become Swa. Swa is self, self-realized. You become self-realized, and also you will get God realization. So Swa is also the name of Paramatma. So you become God realized and reach that abode where that Swatantra is there. Okay. If you are serious and you want to progress there, then you do Om Ityevam Dhyayata Atmanam. That is the benefit of all this. Yeah. So to cross ignorance, okay, next question is to cross this ignorance, how do we contemplate this Brahman? And again, Angirasa again reminded us that this Brahman is Yes Sarvajnaha, Sarvavit, Yasya Mahima Bhuvi. Understand two ideas of Brahman, then you have a chance. What is that idea? First idea, Yes Sarvajnaha, Sarvavit, Yes Sarvajnaha. He is omniscient. Only when you know this Paramatma is omniscient, then you can cross ignorance. Okay. So that is becomes important. Unless you meditate upon this Paramatma is, oh, omniscient Paramatma, remove my ignorance and give me my self-realization. Only when you know that this guy is omniscient, then you have a chance of meditating upon him in the full anusandana. So yes, Sarvajnaha, meditate upon him as Sarvajnaha, and also meditate upon him as Sarvavid. What is Sarvavid? Sarvatra Vidyate, that he is omnipresent. Sarvam Vindati, that he is Aptakama and is omnipotent. He is Sarvam Vingte, Vida Vicharane, he looks after Yogakshema of every sentient beings in the universe. That he will look after me, he will give me my yoga, which will be the Aparoksha Jnana, and he will protect all the good things, good deeds that I have done. He will do Kshema and yoga for me. So he is Sarvavid. At least have this view. If you don't have this and we think this Brahman is something entirely different, then there is no chance. If we think Brahman is not an omniscient being, then what's the point? How can, unless somebody is omniscient, he cannot remove the ignorance of somebody else. Okay, this is important. If we don't think something is omniscient, then how can somebody can remove our ignorance? So think about these ideas. So that is why our Angirasa says, yes, Sarvajna, Sarvavid. And then he says, yes, you have to look deep inside you, but also look outside in the material world. And there is another important idea that Angirasa is giving us, the deep truths of Vedic philosophy. Yasya Esha Mahima Bhuvi. So this Paramatma controls the whole created universe. Know his greatness by understanding this universe. There we understood that if we have to understand, if you have to understand the greatness of Paramatma by understanding his created universe, then his created universe has to be real. If it is some kind of an imaginary thing, how can we have understand his greatness? Yeah, you can't. If something has to be there for us to appreciate the greatness of that creation. If that creation itself is not there, it is an imaginary, some mithya, something like that, then we can only accuse Brahman. We can't understand his greatness. We can only accuse him, saying that you bring about this imaginary universe and you're deluding me and going me through samsara. No, that is not what Angirasa is saying. Yasya esha mahima bhuvi. That understand his greatness, understand his omniscience and his omnipotence and his omnipresence by looking at this universe. Bahuchitra Jagat Bahuda Karanat Parasaktihi Ananta Gunaha Paramaha. Understand he is the abode of infinite auspicious attributes without any defects. It has to be a real creation. We have done this. Janmadhyasya yataha iti Bhagavata Sutra Kerena. Jagatudayadi nimitta karanatvam parasya brahmano lakshanam abhihitam nacha satyatamantadena tadvastavam sambhavati. Veda Vyasa would never have written the definition of Brahman as Janmadhyasya yataha unless his creatorship was real. Yeah. There itself, there is a fundamental philosophy, but some schools of thought have a different view on that. It is their view, not the Vedic view. So, yes, Sarvajnaha, Sarvavid, Yasya Esha Mahima Bhuvi. And then this is the new line for today's Chintana. Divye, where is he? Yes, he is outside. He is inside. He is your Antaryamin. So, Angirasa is, this whole Khanda is full of Antaryamin philosophy. And he closes off at a very high note. And he says, this Brahman is Divye. Where is he in your body? Brahmapure. He Esha, Vyomni. Atma Pratishtitaha. So Atma Pratishtitaha. This Atma, my Swami. Pratishtitaha. He is present. And how is he? He is Divye. Where is he? He is in this Brahmapure, which is a Vyomni, which is the space, this divine space called the Brahmapura, where he is sitting and he is my controller. That is how you understand. So let's break this up a little bit more because it's interesting. It just brings our contemplation of various Upanishads and Gitas that we have done. So this Puram, yeah, let's first look at the word Pura. Okay. Pura, there are so many Purams, right? In India, various places are called Puram, this Puram, Kanji Puram. Yeah. So it's a Puram. So Puram in those places is a place. So similarly, where this Jivatma is, where the Paramatma is also a Puram. The place where Brahman is called Brahmapura. Okay? And of course, this Brahma is everywhere, isn't it? Antas Bahishta Tat Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Stitaha. This Brahman is everywhere. So the whole place is this Puram. Brahmapura means it's such a wide concept. Brahmapura can mean so many things in Pindanda and in Brahmanda. And also beyond Pindanda and Brahmanda. So those are all the ideas that Brahmapura invokes in us. So look, think about this Katha Upanishad. We have done this before. Puram ekadvashadvaram ajasya avakrate cha satha anushtaya na sochati vimuktasya vimuchyate yetadvai tat. It stresses that Yama to Nachkeda. Puram ekadashadvaram. There are 11 openings. Okay. And there are views in Gita also, it says Navadvare Pure Dehi. Remember that verse. And here, Katha Upanishad Puram Eka Dashadwaram, and we have discussed what is 11 and what is 9. Anybody wants to come here and talk about the 9 openings and the 11 openings? What are the extra 2 that is described in the Katha Upanishad? Quick quiz. Who is going to pick that up? No problem. So the 11 openings that Katha Upanishad talks about, that is 9 in Gita plus 2 in Katha Upanishad is Sahasrara and the umbilical cord. Those are the 2 things that you have when you're just newborn, right? You have the anterior fontanelle, which is a little bit soft, and then you have the umbilical cord. These 2 are other 2 openings that makes it 11. So this whole body, which has got 11 opening, is also where Brahman resides. Yeah, he is in the Pindanda, let's not forget it. He is in our Sharira also. He may be inside us as our Antaryamin, but he's also inside this material body that we are carrying and controls it. Okay. And of course, if you look at Dahara Vidya, which again we have done before, Dahara Vidya talks about this. This Pura, Brahmapura is a common word in Upanishad. So watch out for Brahmapura. It's a very, very interesting idea, but it opens up at several levels, this Brahmapura. Ata yadidam asmin Brahmapure daharam pundarikam Veshma. Brahmapure, pundarikam, inverted lotus, thymus gland. There is a Brahmapura. That is where this Brahman is, says the Dahara Vidya of Chandogya Upanishad. And of course, Taittiriya Upanishad, we are all very familiar. Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. Vyoman means that space. Why is that important here? Look at this verse here. Divye Brahmapure hi esha Vyomni. That's Vyomni, Vyoma. Vyoma means space. Okay, there is a tiny space. That is where he is there. Okay. Again, our Katha Upanishad says, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan na Atma Asya Jantor Nihito Guhayam. Again and again. So there's this Antaryamin. Again, this concept of Antaryamin is very important. Antaryamin means it is inside something. It means that something should be there and this should go inside there. If something is there and this goes inside there, then the something is different and this thing that goes inside are different. I've given you that analogy of a man entering into a house. Just because a man enters into a house doesn't mean the man and the house are one. No person will say that. The house is there, the man entering the house is there. Similarly, there is the Jiva and there is the Brahmapura and then there is the Paramatma who is entered. That is in the Pindanda, that Brahmapura. Look at the other view of Brahmapura. Brahma is what? Chaturmukha Brahma. Brahmapura means this Chaturmukaspuram. This Chaturmukaspuram is what? Brahmanda. Yeah. Let's not forget this Chaturmukha sitting on this 14 petals, isn't it? The 14 petals indicating the 14 levels of the lokas, this whole thing that forms the Brahmanda. So this guy, for him, this is also Brahmapura. He is inside it. Purusha Shukta said, Sabhumim Vishwato Vrutva. Ishavasya Upanishad. Ishavasyam idang sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Yes, so you just need to bring all this for our Anusandhana, then it becomes so beautiful. When Angira is saying that Brahmapure. What is that Brahmapura? It can be your Pindanda, but it is also your Brahmanda. But it is not only that. Brahman means what? Our Brahman. Brahma Shabdashta Vishnaveva, as Acharya has settled that. Om Atato Brahma Jignasa Om. Who is that Brahman? Brahman is Vishnu. His Pura. Okay. Where Brahman is, Muktasthana, that is called Paramavyoma. Okay. That non-material, infinite space that exists beyond material world. Okay. That is called Muktasthana. That is called Paramavyoma. Look at Purusha Shukta again. Pado asya vishwabhutani. Tripadasya amrutan divi. His Brahmapura, one aspect of this is in this material world where even this Pindanda is. Only one pada, pado asya vishwabhutani. And then Purusha Shukta says, Tripadasya amrutan devi. There are three aspects of him in Amruta. Amruta means what? Non-material, trans-empirical plane where there is no birth and death. You are there in constant, you are in the everlasting present in the holy communion with the Paramatma. Yeah. There, Purusha Shukta, Rigveda says, Tripadasya Amrutan Divi. There are three aspects. Anantasana, Vaikunta, Shweta is what described in the Rigveda, where you have Narayana, Vaikunta or Padmanabha, who is also called Amruta, Kshema and Abhaya. That is what the Vedic philosophy talks about. And this is an infinite area. Once you reach the trans-empirical plane, it is an infinite trans-empirical plane where there are three aspects. Okay. This is very important because there are some folks who curiously think that there is something even beyond these three areas. Okay. Without naming those organizations, there are some folks who think there is something even beyond Anantasana, Vaikunta and Shweta. Here is a simple question. What can be beyond infinite space? There cannot be anything beyond infinite space. Yeah. So we just need to get the philosophy. We need to get our compass right here. There are three aspects of him that is described. Anantasana, Vaikunta, Shweta. There is nothing beyond that. Some folks think there is something beyond that and these are all the lower levels of existence. That is not the view of the Rig Veda. Yeah. And that is not the view of the Shastras. Okay. We can assume whatever we want. We can even say these areas don't exist also. That is also fine. Everybody is entitled for their opinion. But what we are doing here is contemplation of what is it that the Vedas are teaching us. And Vedas only say Tripadasya Amrutan Divi. Not only that, look at this Purusha Shukta. Tripad Urdhva Udait Purushaha Pado Asya Iha Abhavat Punaha. That Punaha you should read twice. Punaha. Tato Vishwang Vyakramat Sashana Anashane Abhi. Okay, these are all deep philosophies of Purusha Shukta of Rigveda. It talks about this Paramatma is always, he's pervading everywhere. He's pervaded the whole of the Brahmapura, which is not only your Pindanda, which is not only your Brahmanda. It also includes your Muktasthana, that he is always there. But in the material creation, this material creation happens again and again. That is why it's called Punaha. Every time material creation happens, he will come, pervade everything and look after everything. That is how graceful he is. So this guy is Divya, he is divine, he is light, he is Jnana. He is not made of photons. That is not why he's called light or Divya. Okay, the word, English word divine of Catholicism actually comes from Divya of Sanatana Dharma or Vedic philosophy. The Divya becomes divine, divinity in certain other world religions. But that divine has got so many etymologies. One of it is light. Light means what? Not made of photons. Photons are material. There may be energy, particles, whatever. If you're a physicist, you may debate about this endlessly, but they are material things. Period. Okay. But this guy is described as light. As what light? Of knowledge. He's Divya in the sense that he's got infinite knowledge. Okay. So Divye Brahmapure Hi Esha Vyomni Atma Pratishtitaha. Know him like that. It is important. What else and where else he is there? Now, this is the beautiful thing. Once you come to this Brahmanda, then you come to Pindanda. Our Angirasa is reminding us again, Pratishtito Annam. This fellow, this Brahman is there in this Anna. Anna is what? You could take Anna in so many, ways. Anna means this Pindanda, this body, this Stula Sharira, which is made up of Annam, what we eat. What we eat becomes this material body. That is called Annam. So he comes and Anne Pratishtite, Pratishtito Anne. He comes inside and looks after your body. He looks after your Annamaya Kosha. He looks after your Annamaya Kosha is one very, very, one view of this, that he pervades your Annamaya Kosha. By implication, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manonmaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya Kosha. He pervades and looks after it. And when he pervades, he takes the name Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manonmaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. That is the philosophy of Taittiriya Upanishad. That is for another day. Pratishtite Annam. But this Anna also opens up for us in another beautiful way, because the same Angirasa has in the previous Kanda actually talked about this. Tasmad Agnihi Samido Yasya Suryaha Somad Parjanyaha Oshadayaha Prithivyam Puman Retah Sinchati Yoshitayam Bahvi Prajaha Purushat Samprasutaha. You may remind this Panchagni Vidya. Okay, so I'm going to break for a minute. So who is going to remind us of what the Panchagni Vidya is, please? Which is very, very important. The Panchagni Vidya, which is what happens to, this is the sad fact of the Jivas, what happens to them. And we need to be aware of this as to what the Vedas are telling us. Panchagni Vidya, which is also described in Chandogya Upanishad, Panchagni Vidya. It is also described in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Panchagni Vidya. It is described in Mundaka Upanishad, Panchagni Vidya. And in many other places, this Panchagni Vidya comes. That Pancha Agni, Agni we know is Agni Narayana, Pancha Agni, Aniruddha Pradyumna Sankarshana Vasudeva. These Panchagnis are there in so many components of the Brahmanda and Pindanda. So have those ideas. But one idea here is Pratishtite Anne. So for us, what is the Panchagni Vidya that we need to be aware of? All the jivas, they go through 5 stages. Okay? We may be in this material world now, but eventually we will go up and then we'll come down. We'll go up, come down. There is this cycle, isn't it? So the first Agni, go back and check those that particular verse in Mundaka Upanishad. The first Agni is in Swargaloka. We finish our good karmas, then we come down. We come to Parjanya Loka, where we are in these rain droplets, and then it falls on the ground. Third Agni. And then we get into plants. And the plant, the farmer grows these plants and then he harvests. That goes where? Gets cooked. And it goes into a man's body, 4th Agni. And it goes into the 4th body where we eat. We eat lots of food, which has got all these jivas. And then it goes into the testicles and it makes the sperm. The sperms go into the female body, 5th Agni. One sperm gets fertilized with that egg and then we are born. 5. Now we hang out here for a few years, do all sorts of nonsense, and again we go through the samsara. So these 5 Agnis are very important for us because that is our journey of souls. And in every stage, be it Swarga, Parjanya, Oshadi, male, female, this Paramatma has Pratishtite, particularly if you look at this Anna where he has eaten, in these grains where there are jivas, inside the jiva is the Antaryamin. That Antaryamin is inside the Hridaya of the jivas, and he ensures that the jiva is actually going through his life and looks after them. Yeah. So these are all the subtle signs that Angirasa wants us to constantly revise as much as we can. Okay. Why do we do this and how? Who knows all this? Okay. That is the next problem. There are not many people who go to satsang. They just mundanely go through their lives. They don't even think that these things exist in our Shastra. It's a sad fact. 99.9999% are not even interested in this. But there is so much profound scientific philosophy that our rishis have told us. Who is interested in all these kind of ideas? Angirasa says, Tad vijnanena paripashyanti dhiraha anandarupam amrutam yat vibhati. Let's look at that word dhira. Yeah, that's what Angirasa says. Only dhiras are able to do this. Krishna has said, like, there are lots of people made, nobody is interested, only some of them are interested in me. Okay? Those guys are the dhiras. So I would like to think for those of all of us who are here in the satsangs are dhiras, because we are brave, determined individuals who are on this journey of souls. And our goal is Paramatma. The goal may be a difficult one, but it is the Paramatma who is our goal. But it is a very difficult journey. Our Yama has taught us, Shurasya Dara, Nishita, Duratyaya, Durgam Pata. Pata, look at that word, Durgam Pata. Pata is a Sanskrit word, and the English word of that is path. The word path comes from the Sanskrit word Pata. Durgam means that which is full of obstacles, a difficult path. Durgam Pata. Who tells you that it is Durgam Pata? Tat Kavayo Vadanti. The knowledgeable ones tell us that this path towards Paramatma is like walking on the sharp razor's edge. We did this last week. Okay? But the dhiras are the ones that are very, very brave. They said, yes, it could be on the razor's edge. But I am determined. I want to go there because I'm fed up with this samsara of ups and downs and dvandvas that is there, that Krishna has taught us so much in the second chapter onwards. I want to get rid of it. So that path. So dhiras are those kind of persons and they are brave. Now, how do they become brave? That is the next music. Yeah. Some people think ignorance is bliss and they are very safe in the fence of ignorance, which is going to come next, isn't it? We have done this. Avidyayam antare vartamanaha. Swayam dhiraha. Panditam manyamanaha. As Angirasa said in the previous verses. They think they are brave because they're sitting in the fence of ignorance. That is not the dhira that Angirasa is talking. He's talking about the real dhiras. Who are the real dhiras? Dhira splitted. Dhi and Ra. Ra is Ramante, who enjoy. Dhi is Jnana. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Dhi comes in so many Vedic mantras. Dhi means knowledge. Those who rejoice in knowledge are the brave person. Knowledge empowers us. Knowledge makes us brave. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of Paramatma. Why? Because he is inside us, he is looking after us, and so we are brave. We become Abhayam. Remember those Abhayam words in Upanishads. So the Dhira makes one brave and determined. So the one who rejoices in the knowledge. What knowledge? Not the knowledge of Aparavidya of how to make money or invest in stocks and have the next car and what is the next dish. No. Tad Vijnanena. Vijnana, not ordinary knowledge, guys. Jnana. Vijnana. Vijnana we know in the colloquial sense as science. But our Angirasa says Tat Vijnanena. Tat is what? Om Tat Sat Iti Nirdeshaha. The Tat is the name of Paramatma, Krishna has said. Why Tat? Tat is Tataha, that which pervades. What is that thing that pervades? Everywhere in Brahmapura is this Aksharanamaka Paramatma. So knowing about him is Tadvijnanena. So when you know that spiritual science, how do you know it? Paripashyanti. This is high level science. Paripashyanti, Uparipashyanti. This he knows that this Paramatma is a supremely high being. He is omniscient, he is omnipotent, he is omnipresent, he is Aptakama, he looks after me, all that kind of Anusandhana. And that he is everywhere. Paripashyanti, Paritaha. Paritaha means everywhere, spread everywhere. He who knows this Paramatma is an all-pervasive being. That is why Atato Brahma Jignasa. And I come back to that again and again because that very first sutra, Vedavyasa, summarizes the whole of the Vedic philosophy. That this entity of Vedas is a being who is all-pervasive. Super consciousness. So the Dhiras understand this chap as such a that omnipresent being that he is everywhere. and he is very determined, and he is on this razor's edge, okay, going through, a journey towards Paramatma. Okay? Tad vijnanena paripashyanti dhiraha. How do they also see him? Ananda rupam, amrutam, yad vibhati. Okay, so look at this word again, Ananda rupam. Rupam, form. What is his form? Ananda. He is full of Jnanananda. His form is, if somebody says, what is God's form? God's form is, he is Jnananandamaya. That is his form. Okay? God is not formless, but I have put this question just for us to think about, and I would really appreciate some of us contributing to this particular question. See, our Angirasa said he is Ananda Rupam, whereas some people think that God is formless. Or can he have a form? So what is the answer to that question? Some folks think he is formless. Why bother going to this temple and inverted commas? I hate to use the word idols. These are vigrahas. But some fellows from the other, let's say religions, they say you guys worship stones. They're jadas. They're idols. You're idolaters. God does not have a form, they say. Angirasa is saying Ananda Rupa. Okay, so how do you reconcile this, and who wants to come on board and contribute to that?
Madhu Suresh.
Suresh, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we accept the fact that he is all-knowing, all-powerful. I mean, how could he be all-powerful if he could not assume a form? I think so. It's that Achintya Adbhuta Shakti of Paramatma, wherein he is formless, but he has forms as well. He has non-materialistic forms, and which we invoke into material symbols for the ease of our contemplation.
Beautifully put, Suresh ji. Anybody wants to contribute to that? If no, yeah. So Suresh, thank you very much. So summarize so beautifully.
Okay.
Prakash ji, go for it.
Okay. So basically, yeah, very nicely put by Suresh ji. So just want to add 1 or 2 points. We need to bring in the Brahma Sutra, na pratyekena sahi. That is, we are not idolaters. We are seeing God through the idol. And it's not an empty idol, as you said, vigraha. Vividena grahyati. It can attract the attention of so many people. That's why we use that word vigraha. And also, even though God is everywhere, I just want to give me 1 minute. I'll just complete. If you take a dam, electricity is everywhere. But when you bring the water through the pipes, and then when you're able to run a turbine and generate electricity, then only you see the power. So even though the power is everywhere, the electricity is everywhere. Similarly, in the vigraha, even though God is everywhere, the power is manifested everywhere. In order to see in a concentrated form this special thing, we need the vigraha where you bring that. So these are some of the analogies we can use for our own understanding and to refute, like what you said, the Abrahamic religions where they call us idolaters. Some of these things we can bring. And also another thing is the Ananda Rupa. Many Rupas we cannot even realize. For example, in our body we have the cells which is so minute, but again, if you see through another vision, we can see. Similarly, God's Rupa is there, but it's in a different form. So I just wanted to add some more points. Thanks.
Beautiful. Fantastic, Prakash ji. Great points. Thank you very much for reminding us of the Brahma Sutra there. Yeah, so beautiful. So let's move on. So this Brahman is Ananda Rupam. He is Amrutam, and he is Vibhati. So let's look at those meanings, what it is. So what I wanted to do here is, before we, kind of close this idea. So this Amrutam. So let's look at this Amruta. Amruta is what? He is deathless. Only we go through death and birth and rebirth, because we have to go through this material body, because we got the Linga Sharira, then Sukshma Sharira, then Stula Sharira. Based on our karmic imprints, we are going through these cycles and so on. But he is Amruta. He doesn't have any of this, because as Suresh ji and Prakash ji mentioned, he is totally non-material and he doesn't have anything. And of course, in 4th chapter, 7th verse and onwards, he is described about what is my avatara, how do I come in, and my avatars are entirely different. It is completely non-material. The one that knows that only stands a chance for liberation. One who thinks Krishna is some man Rama is some man, this fellow looked green in color, that fellow looked blue in color, they did all sorts of stuff. He who thinks like that has no hope. Okay? He who thinks that their avatars are divine, entirely different, is the one that goes for moksha, says Gita there. And here that Amruta means that he does not have material bodies. He is totally non-material. And yet vibhati. Bha means what? Bha. Anybody wants to tell us Bha? Bhargo devasya dhimahi. Bha. Bhargaha. Bha. Anybody wants to tell us what that Bhargaha means in Gayatri? Because we bring the same meaning here. Yad vibhati. Vi means what? Vilakshana, Vishishta, Vishesha, Bhati, light. Yeah. Bhaskara is sun, right? Similarly, Bhaskara is called sun because he emits light. Similarly, he's got Bhati. Bhargaha. In Gayatri, Narayana is celebrated as Bhargaha. Bharati Jnana Rupatvad Bhargaha is the etymology settled by Srimad Acharya for us in Rigbhashyam. Bharati Jnana. Rati Jnana Rupatvat. Beautiful. Bhargaha. So, Rati is bliss. Yeah, Jnana is knowledge. And he is a light of knowledge and bliss. That is his form. Rati Jnana Rupatvat Bhargaha Yad Vibhati. Here, Ba. Okay. So, Angirasa is basically, he's in such an ecstatic mood that he is praising this Paramatma who is Antaryamin. He's giving us so many adjectives, not to show off his scholarship, but to actually remind us how big this Antaryamin is, who is inside us and who is controlling the whole damn thing. This Antaryamin philosophy is supremely important. And as I said, Antaryamin does not bring Aikyatva. Okay? It is a basic dictum. Antaryamin, by the very term Antaryamin, it does not bring Jiva Brahmaikya. It cannot bring Aikyatva. Yeah, the concept of Antaryamin. Why the philosophy of Antaryamin in Prasthanatrayi is so important. And I thought it's important that we close today's session at least to look at this philosophy of Antaryamin in Prasthanatrayi. So we know what are the three Prasthanas: Brahma Sutra Prasthana, Gita Prasthana, and Upanishad Prasthana. So just a few minutes ago, we looked at all the verses in Chandogya Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, and Taittiriya Upanishad about Upanishads. I'll come to Antaryami Brahmanam at the end. Okay. So if you look at Brahma Sutra, there are three ideas that Vedavyasa gives us in various adhikaranams about this Antaryamin. First thing, Paramatma is residing in the hearts of the jivas. Please be mindful of that, says Vedavyasa. Antastad dharmopadeshat om. Om Vedavyapodeshat chanyaha. Okay, how can you read otherwise? Veda Vyapadeshacha Anyaha. Vedaha, different. Okay, where is he? This guy is inside the hearts of jivas. Antastad dharmopadeshat. Paramatma is residing in the hearts of the jivas. Then he expands that idea a little bit more. Paramatma is residing in the hearts of jivas and he is the motivator of all activities of the jivas. And he has given so many sutras. Check it out. I've just given you references. Om Antara Upapattehe Om. Om Sthanadipyapadeshacha Om. Om Sukha Visishta Abhidhana Devacha Om. Om Shruto Upanishad Kagatya Abhidhanacha Om. Om Anavastite Rasambhavascha Na Itaraha Om. Okay. Read those bhashyas of that talk only about this, where there are so many Vishaya Vakyas from the Vedas to illustrate this philosophy that Paramatma is residing in the hearts of jivas and he is the motivator of all activities of the jivas. Satta, Pratiti, Pravritis. Three things he does. Paramatma is residing in the heart of the jivas, correct? He is the motivator of all activities of jivas, correct? And then Vedavyasa gives another truth there. He is the very person who is responsible for the very existence of the jivas. If he is not there, the jiva has got no astitva at all. So those are all the three ideas, deep levels of philosophy that Vedavyasa talks about. Om Antaryami Yadi Daivadishu Tadharma Vyapadeshat. Om Nachasta Natas smartyam atash abipalat sharirashcha ubayerapihi vedenaiva diyate. It's all complicated Sanskrit words. You split them open and understand. The sutra is alpaksharam, right? All the small, small words, and you have to pick each word, expand and understand. But in these three sutras, he has expanded the philosophy of Paramatma, that he is three things. So this we have to understand. The last one is the summum bonum of Antaryami philosophy as expressed by Vedavyasa. He is residing in your jiva. He is the motivator of all activities of the jivas. And his very presence is required for the very existence of the jivas. Okay, so those three are key aspects. Okay. In Gita, of course, there are two beautiful verses, and I'm going to call upon friends to recite this, 13:18 and 15:15. So who wants to take 13:18, please? Maybe I can call out on one of us. Suresh, go for it. Veena ji, please.
ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिः तमसः परमुच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं ज्ञानगम्यं हृदि सर्वस्य विष्ठितम्.
Do the other one also, Suresh ji.
सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टः मत्तस्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यः वेदान्तकृत् वेदविदेव चाहम्.
Beautiful, Suresh. Thank you so much for that. So, Jyotisham api tad jyotir tamasaham paramuchyate. We have done just this, all this, is it? Tamasah parastat. Same thing that Vedavyasa is saying. And that, of course, Gita is, I was wanting more to focus on. Hridi sarvashta vishtitam. Sarvasya cha aham hridi sannivishtaha. And aham, we have of course done the etymology of aham and how aham is entirely a different meaning. We have done all that. Let's not go there for today's session. The key idea is Jiva and Antaryamin are infinitely different. Why am I saying that? The master stroke comes from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad of Antaryami Brahmana, where there are 19-20 mantras that talk about how this Antaryamin is in so many tattvas, meaning the Abhimani devatas of those tattvas. Yes, sarveshu, bhuteshu, tishtan, sarvebhyo, bhutebhyo, antaro, yam, sarvani, bhutani, naviduhu, yasya, sarvani, bhutani, shariram, yaha, sarvani, bhutani, antaro, yamayati, yeshata atma, antaryami, amrutaha. I just split everything out because the meaning is 100% clear. Some people try to twist it. I cannot see how it can be twisted. Antara means separate. Yamayati means governor, governs. Esha, Lord. Atma, master, governor. Antar, independent. Yamin, one who governs. Who is he? Amrutaha. Bhuteshu means you and me. Bhutas, we are all Bhutas. Yaha sarveshu bhuteshu tishtan. He is inside everybody. We don't know him, but yet he is controlling all of us. A Bhuta is different, controller is different. How can you bring the unity here? Impossible. Okay, so if you look at the Brahma Sutras, you look at the Gita, and you look at the Upanishads, the philosophy of the Antaryamin is you do the dhyana, this omiti evam dhyayata, this Atma is my Antaryamin who is controlling me. Please grace me and take me to salvation. So that is the prayer that we should be doing, not say, me and Antaryamin, we both will become one. How is that possible? That is not what the Vedas are saying. It may be possible for some hypothesis, but we are not talking about hypothesis here. We're talking about what is it that the Vedas are telling us. And the language of the Vedas is very clear. That there is the Antaryamin and there is somebody in whom this Antaryamin has gone in. Who is that gone in person? All the Bhutas, which is you and me. And why has he gone inside the Bhutas? There are various ideas. Again, Veda Vyasa has given us 3 ideas. And also you remember I say, Avihi Sannihitam Guhacharam. You remember that verse of Angirasa, Avihi. Avihi. He is sitting inside there, not only doing these three jobs that Veda Vyasa has said us, but he's also sitting there. He said, guys, turn towards me and see me. I am always available for you. I am ever manifest. Avihi, ever manifest. I am always there for you to see. But you still don't want to see because you don't want to read the Shastras and understand who am I, what is my position. You're either looking outside or you're thinking yourself as Hiranyakashipu. I am Vishnu. Hiranyakashipu, Vena of Mahabharata, thought I am Vishnu. Hiranyakashipu thought he is the greatest among gods. He is the greatest god. We all know what happened to them. Yeah. So we need to be mindful of all these ideas. Why is it all important? So let's see if we can handle this particular, at least a little bit, this slide, maybe another 10 minutes. Why is all this benefits of this Antaryamin philosophy, benefits of God vision? What is the point? Why should we know all this? Angirasa is telling us, this is the benefit made. If you are interested in this benefit, then you do this Shastra Abhyasa. What is that benefit? भिद्यते हृदय ग्रंथिः छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः क्षीयन्ते च अस्य कर्माणि तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे. Beautiful verse. And again, in this verse, the whole philosophy of Veda, the whole Sanatana Dharma, the Vedic philosophy, the Tattvavada has been summarized here. When you have God vision, that is Drishte Paravare, when you have that God vision, what happens? Vidyate Sarva Grantihi. So to understand this, we need to do this slide, isn't it? Samsara, pre-creation, after creation, Aparoksha Jnana and liberation. So we have done all this journey of souls and so on. So then it becomes very easy for us to understand what is it that Angirasa is saying. So we are all in samsara. This is the first point. There has never been a point where jivas have not been in samsara. Whether you like it or not, we have always been in samsara. Okay, we have always had this linga sharira. Okay? The idea is to get rid of this linga sharira and go towards liberation. But bottom line, we are in samsara. Pre-creation, we may just have a linga sharira where you may have the karmic imprints of previous creation, you might have done nasty things. And sometimes good things also. You will have various karmas, you will have ignorance, and you will have this linga sharira where all these imprints are. And these imprints then will dictate what kind of sukshma sharira and stula sharira you will have. And then you run through this samsara of going through various births. But for those who does satsang on Sunday at 4 o'clock and elsewhere do their own, studies, contemplations, they might reach a stage, as Angirasa has promised us, that they may reach this thing, something called Aparoksha Jnana, where we have this God vision, that is Aparoksha Jnana. Then that is the route to salvation. So this is the formula that has been given by our rishis, who have intuited all this in the Vedas. So, Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi. What is that Vidyate? Untied. What? Hridaya Granti. Granti is what? These knots. Knots of what? Knots of ignorance and material attachments attached to the various bodies and so on. Hridaya Grantihi. Your ignorance will go. Chidyante Sarva Shamsayaha. When you have reached that God vision point, you also achieved self-realization. Yeah, remember? Swasti Vahaparaya, Swasti, Swa Asti. We did that verse just before. You will have self-realization first. Who the hell you are? Who you are. What is your swabhava? What is your nature? What are you? First is that thing, self-realization. When you have self-realization, then you will have God realization with His grace in that Aparoksha Jnana state. At that point, all your doubts are gone. Yeah, this is the doubt our Shuanaka had at the very beginning. Kasminnu bhagave vijnate sarvamidam vijnatam bhavati. That was his doubt. I am doing all these yagnas. I am doing various agnihotras, agni yagnas of this and that. What the knowledge of what will actually make all this purposeful. That was his samshaya, his doubt. And Angirasa says, when you do all this and you reach that stage, all your doubts will be gone, Shuanaka. Viparita jnana, samshaya jnana, all components of ignorance, of course, they all go. Chidyante sarva samshayaha. Kshiyante cha asya karmani. Very, very clear word. So we will talk about this and finish this later. Kshiyante cha asya karmani. So all these karmic imprints that I have put them on the Linga Sharira with all these stars, Angirasa says these karmic imprints will go, karma kshaya, which is so much described in the fourth Adhyaya of Brahma Sutra. In Phala Adhyaya, karma kshaya pada, check that out. Kshiyante cha asya karmani. Karmic imprints are gone. So here I just want to introduce a new idea here. Probably we have discussed this before, but not much. Karmic imprints are gone. So the question there is all the karmic imprints gone or anything else left behind? So who wants to take that up? Prakashji, do you want to take this one?
Sure, Madhushani. So, yes, the karmic prints will be gone to the extent where there's something called prarabdha karma, that is the karma which is obtained before. Those karmas remain, you have to go through that. Other than that, when you do the prarabdha karma, if there is going to be any future karmas out of that all those things will be taken care of by God. So only those prarabdha which you have, those imprints you have to go through. That is the only way you can escape. That's what I understand.
Thank you, Prakashji. Anybody else wants to add any other extra info into that? Okay, no worries. So thank you, Prakashji. Fantastic. So as Prakashji mentioned, your karmic imprints are gone, but your karmic imprints may go, but your prarabdha karma, the one that have come into fruition, you will have to complete that. That is one point. And there is another subtle point here. The karmic imprints. So there are punya karmas and papa karmas, right? So one of the things there is when the karmic imprints are gone, what it means is the papa karmas that we have done, we might have done in some previous birth or even in this birth, I don't know. So those bad karmic imprints are gone, 100%. Then in the good karmic imprints, that is the punya karmas. In the punya karmas, our gurus teach us that there are two aspects to the punya karmas. One punya karmas is all the punya karmas that will help you in your samsara. Oh, maybe in the next birth, you will have a human body. You may have lots of money. You will be born into a good family. You will be able to study. You will have a good family with children, prosperity. Those are all punya karmas, right? Those punya karmas that put you and bind you in samsara, they are gone. And then there is the karmas that you and I, we are doing at this point. Yeah, these are the real nishkama karma that we have done that also brings in some karmic imprints. That punya karma, that one, the subtle point there is they remain on the linga sharira, and the benefits of that our acharyas teach us that you may have the intensity of bliss in moksha because of that. It might help you with the increase in the intensity of the bliss. So those are subtle points. Think about it. But as Prakashji so beautifully mentioned, your prarabdha karma, you will have to still suffer, but your other karmic imprints will have to go away. When tasmin drishte paravare. So this drishte paravare, this drishte is the God vision. It is called aparoksha jnana. Some folks call it as bimbarupa sakshatkara. So they have different names to it. But it is a drishta. It is the aparoksha jnana of whom? Angirasa tells a beautiful thing. Again, summarizing the whole Vedic philosophy. Paravare. The name of Vishnu. Paravare. So para and avara. So this is interesting. Avara is below, para is above. And you put them together, it becomes paravare. And in the Upanishads, you will see these words coming up as paravare, as a name of Paramatma, of Vishnu. Why? That is why the Taratamya philosophy of Tattvavada becomes very important. And understanding the Vedic pantheon becomes foundational for our understanding. Because, you and me, we are very, very bottom. We are at the bottom level of existence. Okay. Then you have all these Tattvabhimani Devatas, Apsaras, Gandharvas, so Vishve Devas, Rudras, Adityas, so many things that are described in our Vedas. So these are all sentient beings of increasing higher levels of existence. So all these Tattvabhimani Devatas, so each one is higher than the other. So if you look at Ashwini twins, Varuna, and so on. Then after that, you go to Rudra. So all these guys are higher than us, but they are below Rudra. Rudra is highest entity among all these. Chaturmukha is higher than him, says the Vedas. And then higher than the Chaturmukha is Sri Tattva. Higher than him is this Mula Prakriti or Lakshmi, and even higher than him is this Purushottama. Yasmat ksharamati-toham aksharaadapi cha uttamaha atosmin loke vede cha pratitaha purushottama becomes so interesting. Number 18, and Suresh ji has taken us through number 18 so many times, so beautifully, of reminding us that 18th verse of chapter 15 talks about that 18th entity who is Paravare. He is the highest. Everything else is lower to him. He is Para. So he is Paravare. When you have a drishte of the Paravare, what happens? Vidyate hridaya grantihi chidyante sarva shamshayaha kshiyante cha asya karmani tasmin drishte Paravare. That is why we have to go through all this, understand who the Antaryamin is, and so on and so forth. And if we have accepted the truths of Vedas, which is Apaurisha, which is the source of supreme authority, which is said this is the rule, we accept that, then there is a scope for us. That Shraddha, when we have that faith in the Vedic scripture that gives us this direction, then we can work towards that to achieve that. Okay. So in the next verse, this whole concept of Paravare then becomes a little bit more interesting. Okay. He reminds us, Hiranmaye pare koshaha virajam brahma nishkalam tat shubram jyotisham jyotihi tadyat atma vido viduhu. Tadyat atma vido viduhu. Hiranmaye pare koshe virajam brahma nishkalam tat shubram jyotisham jyotihi tat yat atma vido viduhu. So this whole ideas of Prashna Upanishad and Mundaka Upanishad, and we bring in Isha Upanishad and so on. So the next following this particular words, we'll have to bring in all the other Upanishads to understand what is this Kala. Nishkala means what? Virajam means what? We all understood Viraja Nadi, right? In after Aparoksha Jnana, and when we cross over to the transempirical plane, there is this river called Viraja Nadi. Then we will kind of go through it. Hopefully some of us don't go through Vaitarani Rivi, where then we'll go to Andatamas. Hopefully we'll go to Viraja Nadi and cross and be with in Vaikunta somewhere. Even if I'm in the last row, I am happy in Vaikunta. But what is that Virajam? What is this Hiranmaya? Hiranmaye na patre na satyasya abhihitam avisha Upanishad. What is that Hiranmaya? What is that Pare Koshe? So we'll see, look at all that. It's really beautiful verse, this one, that brings in all the Upanishadic philosophies that we will hopefully catch up next week. And following that, we have our Gita Chintana, which will be led by Neetaji, end of the month. Okay. So on that note, again, as you know, lots of beautiful slides coming up for our contemplation. Krishna Pranamastu. And if there are any questions, we can perhaps maybe take it up at this point. Right. No questions. Harish, can you recite Om today for us, please?
Sure.
Thank you very much, Harish, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So see you next week, and until then, stay safe and enjoy the rest of the week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.